Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you really?
I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for coming. It's a very special occasion tonight with the elections past us. We have now the opportunity to swear in our aldermen and other elected officials tonight, and I personally want to congratulate all of them. As they say, you put yourself out there, you're going to work hard for the community, and I look forward to working with all of you. And with that, we'll start with our newest alderman, Marty Deuter. Where'd she go? And we're going to do it up front here, and I'd like to invite the families to join us as we swear in each of the elected public officials.
It's not even Speedy. We'll find out. We'll talk to him,
Okay. Keep one hand free.
You make like one connection.
Step some here. Here, Sam, shake hands.
All right. All right, if you raise your right hand. Other right. I, Marty Deuter,
I, Marty Deuter,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the chartered laws and ordinances
the Charter of Laws and Ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will perform the duties
that I will perform the duties
of Alderman of the First Ward
of Alderman of the First Ward
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
You are the Alderman.
The two youngest ones are from. That's our stuff.
Alderman-elect Norm Leader, Alderman.
The two younger ones are She's got a couple of your. Good job. First task done.
Okay. Ready? Yeah. I, Norman Leader,
I, Norman Leader,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
and the State of Illinois
and the State of Illinois
and the chartered laws and ordinances
and the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will perform the duties
and I will perform the duties
of Second Ward Alderman
of Second Ward Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Welcome. Michael Bram, Third Ward.
They're leaving you hanging.
If my family doesn't want to come up.
Should we make them come up? I don't know.
No, that's all right.
There we go. I, Michael Bram,
I, Michael Bram,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Illinois
and the state of Illinois
and the chartered laws and ordinances
and the chartered laws and ordinances
of the city of Elmhurst,
of the city of Elmhurst,
and that I will perform the duties
and I will perform the duties
of Third Ward Alderman
of Third Ward Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Kevin York. Button that second. All right. Raise your right hand. I, Kevin York,
I, Kevin York,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the chartered laws and ordinances
the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of Fourth Ward Alderman
of the office of the Fourth Ward Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Congratulations. Alderman Chris Healy. Some family, you want me to stand in for you? Raise your right hand, please. I, Chris Healy,
I, Chris Healy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the chartered laws and ordinances
and the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of Fourth Ward Alderman.
of Fifth Ward Alderman
Thank you. To the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, my fellow Fifth Ward Alderman. Alderman Chris Kennedy. I mean, Jim Kennedy.
I'm leaving a moment to
Okay. You ready? All right, raise your right hand, please. I, Jim Kennedy,
I, Jim Kennedy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the chartered laws and ordinances
the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will perform the duties
and that I will perform the duties
of Sixth Ward Alderman
of Sixth Ward Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. Alderman Patrick Wagner.
This is the best council you've ever been on. It is. I mean, for me.
I know. I thought it was.
Get me out of here. And his 5 daughters.
Raise your right hand, please. I, Patrick Wagner,
I, Patrick Wagner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the chartered laws and ordinances
and the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will perform the duties of
and I will perform the duties of
Seventh Ward Alderman
Seventh Ward Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our new city treasurer, Elaine Libovitz. crew. You ready?
Okay.
All right, raise your right hand. I, Elaine Olivitz,
I, Elaine Libovitz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the chartered laws and ordinances
and the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
of City Treasurer
of City Treasurer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Treasurer.
Doesn't know. You let that one go. Thank you.
City Clerk Patty Spencer.
Swear myself
I'm still pulling my board docs. I signed in, but like a long time ago.
No, you're with
No,
me.
you're not.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Family out of state and husband on a business
And
trip.
friends all out in the audience and on the dais. Your right hand. I, Patty Spencer,
I, Patty Spencer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the chartered laws and ordinances
and the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst.
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
I will faithfully perform the duties
of City Clerk
of City Clerk
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Well, that's all for the warm-up bands, and now for the main event, Mayor-elect Stephen Morley.
He gets the biggest crowd.
Glad you made it.
All right, we won't be able to actually start tonight until Colette comes up to the front, Steve's sister-in-law. So it could be a long night unless we get some participation. Colette, we need you up here.
Tommy's still
I, Stephen Morley,
I, Stephen Morley,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the chartered laws and ordinances
the chartered laws and ordinances
of the City of Elmhurst,
of the City of Elmhurst,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
of Mayor of Elmhurst
of Mayor of Elmhurst
to the best of my
to
abilities.
the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Mayor.
Hey, Reed.
There's what's his name? He looks good.
He's just in.
Oh, this just, all right. With the gavel on top and a pen. That's right. Already giving orders.
No, it's good thing I brought it back up.
Stairs.
Downstairs, got it.
Bomb it.
Yeah, I mean, if,
Oh,
Ready? Okay. While you're all welcome to stay, we do have some official business to conduct tonight. And afterwards, we'll see how quick this meeting goes, but afterwards, you're all invited to the lower level of City Hall where we have some refreshments and cake, right? Okay. Clerk Spencer, would you please call the roll?
Gutenkopf. Here. Deuter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Leader.
here.
Polumsky.
Here.
Graham.
here.
Hipskin.
Here.
York.
Here.
Levin.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
13 present, 0 absent.
Very good. 13 present, 0 absent. We do have a quorum. Before we move on to item 3 on our agenda, I will be removing 8B. 8B from our agenda under ordinances. We had A and B listed depending on the way certain things went, and therefore we will be removing 8B. It is no longer germane to this meeting. That having been said, we will move on to item 3. Item 3, April 18th stormwater update and flood mitigation update. The city has prepared some information about the flood and also some follow-up information about where we stand on various projects. So with that, I will turn it over to City Manager Grabowski.
Thank you. And before I start, Chairman of Public Works Committee, Alderman Kennedy, would like to make some remarks, and then I'll take it from there.
Thank you, City Manager Rogowski, and thank you. I'll speak in.
These doors need to be closed. There's a racket outside this room.
Close them.
Close them. Charging it on.
We do have a lot of people here tonight, and we would ask that if you could keep it down. It's actually difficult for us to hear as well with some of the acoustics in here. So if we're all settled, we'll turn it over to Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Manager Grabowski. All of you, many of you in this room suffered flooding 4 weeks ago. Myself and many fellow aldermen here also felt that same pain by cleaning up wet basements and dealing with the fallout of such an event. Since the storms of 2010, the #1 priority of the Public Works Committee has been working on flood mitigation. Unfortunately, we have not gotten as much done as we would have hoped because in our form of government, we need to get things done through a myriad of people and many stakeholders to make sure what we do is effective. So again, this has been our #1 priority. Speak up. Thank you, Mike. Back when we had that initial evaluation, we formed 2 task forces, primarily due to this situation, a sanitary task force and a stormwater task force. In addition, we got professional help from the RJN group on the sanitary side and from Christopher Burke Engineering on the stormwater side. Each one of those groups did significant evaluation of our system, of the failures and the situations around the previous flooding events of 2010, and came back to us with what we could do as a city to make improvements so that ultimately this can be significantly improved in the long term. On the sanitary side, the initial effort was to do smoke testing centered around the southwest Elmhurst area, where a tremendous amount of flooding had occurred. In those areas and throughout the city where smoke testing was done, there were 104 areas where there were issues on the public side of the sanitary system. Each one of those 104 issues has been dealt with to date. Most recently, the Public Works Committee has worked on the approval of the design for the Southwest Elmhurst wet weather facility. That was the #1 project that was identified not only by RJN, but also by the Citizens Task Force related to the sanitary side. That project, which will come online in the summer of 2014, will have the greatest impact on Southwest Elmhurst and will cost approximately $6 million when we're completed. Again, the #1 project that was identified 2 years ago is what we're going to be working on in that area. From a storm side, There's a lot of work that's been done. Unfortunately, we haven't had tangible work in terms of alleviating those areas that have had overland flooding in 2010 and again here in 2013. With the Burke studies, there were 11 areas that were identified as potential places where water could be stored in the city in these storm events. We took that information and we went to the stakeholders from District 205 and from the Elmhurst Park District, because we as a city don't own the land where ultimately we hope to put this water. So as we go forward, we're going to be working with our brethren in those entities to work together to alleviate what has been a standing issue for the city of Elmhurst and all of its residents for many, many years. The next step will be to work with those stakeholders on detailed engineering projects. Behind you, you'll see some preliminary designs and conceptual work to give everyone an idea what this might look like. But certainly there's a lot of engineering work to be done to ultimately be able to do those things in their entirety. As we go forward, our challenges will be three. Number one, how do we pay for it? Number two, how soon can we start? And number three, in what order are we going to do these projects? Again, I look forward to working with my fellow constituents and with the people in District 205 and with the Elmhurst Parks District, because as a city, this is the number one thing that we need to do, that everybody's got a hand in, to make a great town even better going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Kennedy. City Manager Grabowski.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Kennedy, for that. As Alderman Kennedy said, on April 18th, the city experienced one of the more devastating rainstorms in city history. Overall, city operations in response to the challenges faced that day went very well. I'm extremely proud of the employee service those 2 days in particular, and also in the days since. This can be a traumatic event for homeowners, we understand that, and our employees are doing everything they can to help residents understand and cope with moving forward. From April 17th through the 18th and since then, in particular, public works crews have been working tirelessly to ensure all city systems were working, continue to work, or are ready for the next inevitable storm. On the 17th through the 18th, public works crews were held over to man pump stations and readied for downed trees or any other complication that the storm would bring. This is after a scheduled street sweeping, which was conducted a week before the storm to clear the storm sewer inlets of any debris which may restrict water flow. As I said before, all city systems worked as planned with a few exceptions. Early in the morning of the 18th, the storm pumping station at Jackson Street tripped off to avoid overheating. However, the alarm was not sent to the operator at that time. While this saved the pumps, it unfortunately stopped pumping water into Salt Creek for approximately 20 minutes until storm crews revisited the site and discovered the outage. This is being fixed with the installation of a wireless mesh communication system for all of the city's sewer and water infrastructure. Additionally, we lost a sanitary pump station near North Avenue and Clinton Avenue due to a flooded transformer and our inability to access it due to the high water. This outage lasted approximately 9 hours. Fortunately, city crews were already prepared to bypass pump to avoid sewage backups to the greatest extent possible. As a result of the water inundation at the pump station, 4 pumps need work at that station. 2 of them are being repaired, and 2 of them will need to be replaced. The estimated cost for this fix is $120,000. In addition, the transformer needs to be elevated at an additional cost. What I'd like to do is now turn to the FEMA status, Federal Emergency Management Association. FEMA inspectors have been in DuPage County since last Monday, starting the process for individual homeowner assistance. They started on the west side of the county and were reported to be moving east as time permitted. While we expected them and were ready for their arrival on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday of last week, they contacted the city Friday saying they had ceased their inspections for individual assistance. We're assuming they felt enough evidence had been gathered to meet the federal threshold. For up-to-date information, we request residents go to the website of the county, which is dupagecounty.org, and there's a button there, or if you want to type it in, it's a /Protect DuPage. That will give you the most recent FEMA information. The most recent notification today was that it said that please note that FEMA assistance is not yet available. It will only be made available if DuPage is included in the Presidential Disaster Declaration. And that declaration includes providing individual assistance to residents and business owners. With nearly 50 Illinois counties affected by the flood, it is likely to take a few more weeks before FEMA is able to complete their assessment and a determination regarding providing federal disaster assistance can be made. And it stresses also to go to the DuPage County website for up-to-date information. The city will make best efforts to get any news regarding this to the residents once something changes. The inspection process for the public assistance will start this week, and that's the assistance that municipalities will be afforded. Again, we will be prepared to illustrate city expenses in hope of some reimbursement. The city incurred approximately $447,000 in additional and eligible FEMA expenses by their standards. For any individual assistance or public assistance to be considered by FEMA, and as I mentioned before, the President of the United States needs to declare the area a federal disaster. We have been in contact with U.S. Senator Durbin, Congressman Quigley, and Duckworth, asking each of them to stress the need for the disaster declaration, giving the homeowners who suffered damages eligibility to be reimbursed according to NFIP standards. Now I'd like to touch on moving forward. And Alderman Kennedy mentioned a number of these items already. But after the FEMA status questions, the most often asked question we receive is, what is happening with the city plans to help resolve these issues? As everyone knows, the city retained Christopher Burke and RGN Engineering to guide us in resolving our sanitary and storm issues to the extent that the city can. And though we haven't seen any shovels in the ground on large capital projects recommended by the reports and citizens groups, things have been accomplished, and we have detailed lists on our website as to what everything that Public Works crews have been doing. However, getting back to the large capital projects, as Alderman Kennedy mentioned, approximately 3 weeks ago, the City Council approved the design contract for the $6 million Southwest Elmhurst Wet Weather Control Facility, which was the highest rated project, helping the most number of homeowners in the RJN report. Also, the Sanitary Sewer Committee of the Citizen Stormwater Task Force recommended this be completed first from their analysis. As a reminder, there are a number of other recommendations from the subcommittee which are being reviewed and considered by the Public Works Committee of the City Council. With regard to storm projects, all of the areas of possible mitigation in the Summary of Findings report, including utilizing property which is not controlled by the City of Elmhurst. Immediately after the concept projects were made public in December of 2011, the Stormwater Committee of the Resident Task Force analyzed the recommendations and came to the same conclusion regarding the use of public property for stormwater detention. As soon as we could, city staff started conversations with our counterparts in District 205 and the Park District regarding these projects. These were productive conversations, including the overall impact to the use of the facility, and once built, and how their constituents may feel. Both organizations requested additional details about each individual project, showing the true impact which the initial concept plan did not show. We engaged the Burke Group's staff landscape architect to refine each concept, and the city recently received these renderings, which are on display tonight. Now, I can't stress enough tonight that these drawings are concept and draft only, and they're for discussion right now. Neither the school board nor the Park District Board have had the opportunity to discuss these and how they affect the individual properties. We had the opportunity to present these to the superintendent and staff and the Park District Executive Director and staff this past week. Additional questions were raised, which are reflected in the drawings tonight. I'd now like to ask Doug Gotham from Christopher Burke and Associates to present one of the proposed sites to illustrate how the facility could help reduce the flooding and the benefits to the Park District users in this particular example. We do have staff here tonight to help answer questions about individual sites. And again, I can't stress enough that these are concept and draft plans only, and that our fellow governmental bodies have not had the chance to review and discuss these proposals. We understand that residents will have questions about how much these facilities will help the areas and how the proposed changes will affect the parks or school sites. To be able to answer these in greater depth, We are scheduling individual meetings regarding the sub-areas so that we can focus on each site in individual meetings rather than try to do that in one large group meeting. The schedule for these meetings will be out shortly, so please watch the city website and the Notify Me mailings. I would encourage everyone to sign up for those who haven't had the opportunity. And we will also ask our partners at the school district and park district to get that announcement out via their email lists as well. So with that, I would ask Doug to please explain Golden Meadows Park concept plan.
Thank you, Jim. As he stated, we looked at this as a whole and the impact that was going to occur on each of the sites. Now let me go over Golden Meadows. I won't go through them all because, as he also stated, we don't have time and we all want to get back to the cake and the celebration after. But up front there, you see on the screens Golden Meadow Park, and our goal through this entire process was to make the facilities work as a stormwater facility, but also work for their park district or school district use. And in this case, Golden Meadow is used as a full-size soccer field. And what we were able to do with this facility is to lower it to accommodate the stormwater. It would enter in the southwest corner, as you see down there, and it would exit towards the tollway up there on the right-hand side. But the soccer field in the center is still fully accommodated. We depressed the field, but it would still function and drain properly. We've been able to do this successfully in Tinley Park and Downers Grove and Gurnee and other communities as well. It wouldn't be entirely dead flat. It would have an under-drain system. It would have a slight pitch to the surface of the field, but not enough to interfere with play, and be constructed out of a porous soil material so that the grass would grow and play would be better, probably, than it is today. And then we were able to accommodate off-street parking as well, so we could pull that in, get the parking off the street, and then ramp that down, as you can see in the illustrations, so that both the pedestrians are ramped down into the field, as is the parking. So we have the nice control, and we have the nice opportunity for access. Now, let me point out that this is just an example. Our goal in this whole process was to see what the impact that these facilities would do on the school district sites and the park district sites, and keeping in mind that we would like to leave them in a better condition than they are now. So to actually improve both their appearance and their function and allow for the stormwater elements to occur.
That is the presentation. As I said, we wanted to highlight one of the parcels so that everybody had an idea of what we were working with in the school district and park district. We will schedule these individual meetings for the other 7 areas and get the word out to everyone so that they can come and ask questions specific to that area.
Okay, thank you. One thing I would add, as this is kind of a lesser known park in Elmhurst, this is actually about 1.5 blocks south of East End, next to the railroad tracks. And the other thing I would highlight that Mr. Gotham discussed, and all this goes with the caveat that you know, this is not our land. It's going to take some serious intergovernmental cooperation to get to this. But Mr. Gotham did mention one of the parks, Washington Park in Downers Grove, and I would encourage anybody who wants to get a look at what something like this will look at in actuality to take a trip to Downers Grove and look at Washington Park. It actually is an improvement to the facility that's already there. I took the opportunity after our last flood to drive out to Downers Grove 2 days later, and there was actually people playing on the soccer field and playing on the baseball field, and the grass was completely dry. So engineered properly, it's actually not only made to detain water, but it's an improvement in the site that's already there. So any other comments before we move on? I'll go to Alderman Healy first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gotham, can you just, for sake of clarification, so that what is conceptually up there has storage capacity of 14 acre-feet? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an estimate as to what that field holds now, just to give us an idea of how much additional capacity is created by doing this?
In stormwater?
Yes.
1 to 2 acre-feet.
Okay, so we're talking somewhere in the area of 7 to 14 times what's there now?
Exactly.
Thank you.
And that's not including the possibility of expanding to the west. We were in discussions with the Park District at that time, but we weren't even looking at it today.
To clarify, there's actually, if you look on the map, there's actually a second lobe of this that was not included in this particular illustration.
Right.
Alderman Gutenkopf?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. I think that it's very easy for those of us that have been involved in this conversation to make a few leaps of understanding, and I would appreciate a couple of steps back. I think that it's important for us to note that the intent would be to get water to this park, and so perhaps we could have a brief comment of how that would happen. And then what this gains us as a city, that we move this water to the park, and that then alleviates flooding for a certain amount of space, for a certain percentage of the community. So I'd also appreciate it if you'd clarify a few comments about that we need to kind of step back. We're intending to bring water to a space, hold the water in a space for a temporary period of time, and then drain it when the danger of flooding goes down. So perhaps you could address those parts of the story too.
Go ahead, Public Works Director Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. And we do have Burke here too, as well, who can speak to Doug is a landscape architect, and then we have the stormwater engineers are here as well. So if I get off track, help me out. But currently where we're at, and I just want to remind everyone, this is somewhat of an iterative process. We've gone from the first in the summary of findings noting open areas that existed that could potentially hold water to now a more refined conceptual draft. But there's a lot more engineering to go on. The theory, though, is across all these projects is to get the water out of an affected area, in this case Pine Street being one of those areas, construct a storm sewer that would get it over to this holding facility, if you will, minimizing or reducing the ponding in the Pine Street area, and then as the storm recedes, Pine Street and that area drains out, and then this would drain out afterwards. That's the concept that's repeated in all of these facilities out here. What we haven't done at this point is the extra engineering to quantify the costs and benefits that go with each of these, because as we proceed forward, if for some reason one of the other entities, school district or the park district, says, you know, this is absolutely not going to work for us, we don't want to have spent a bunch of dollars on engineering and cost analysis to find out it's not going forward. So we're doing it somewhat in an iterative way to be cautious but yet always moving forward. I hope that helps answer it.
Alderman Bram?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions on this. First, I want to make a point. I think this is a good presentation. It's always good to give an update on where things are at. The City Council, or at least myself, this is within the last few days the first times we've seen these conceptual drawings, so it's not like this has been discussed for months on end. Again, it's a concept, but I think it's the right direction to go. If possible, if this could be answered tonight or maybe at a later time, in regards to the rationale or why these particular parks were selected. The northeast side of town was also impacted severely, and I don't see Crestview Park on any of the conceptual drawings as well. So if someone could speak to that as well. The only other thing I would like to make a comment on, we've been talking about the parks, but I believe we've also or will be speaking with the school district to see if there's an ability to utilize their properties as well.
Yeah, we obviously are talking about the school and park district, and you know the areas that you see here are what came out of the summary of findings from the 2010 storm. I'll tell you, been here almost 28 years, and I did see water where I haven't seen water before. So I think going forward, in addition to the areas identified before, and of course this all has to go back to the Public Works and Buildings Committee and ultimately the City Council, but there may be new areas. We know there's new areas that had water in varying degrees much worse than 2010. So these are where we're at now. It doesn't mean there won't be other parks looked at for other problem areas. So this is just rolling out of as far as we got with the original summary of findings from the 2010 storms.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Alderman Levin.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up with Alderman Gutenkopf's comment, I thought I saw some plan where, for the benefit of the people on Pine Street, where the water was going to be, there was a plan to how to get, I know it's preliminary, but to move the water from Pine Street down to Golden Meadows, if this were to go forward. Is there something you can describe for us there?
Well, that is it. That storm sewer system would have to be constructed because obviously the current one gets exceeded in the storms like 2010, 2008. So there'd have to be a separate storm sewer design just to get that water over here. It would continue going out the way it normally does, but we would pick it off and come over here and get as much in this area and out of the Pine Street area.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Before we move on, I just want to confirm, with the exception of the site at the relatively new drawing that I've seen at Bryan, all of these are gravity fed. So all of these are designed based on what topography allows. So it's possible we could lower this field another 10 feet, but that involves some more complicated engineering with lift stations. So everything that we see here and that we've had drawn out is run by, or is fed by gravity-fed pipes. So how they get there is going to be obviously new piping, but gravity's going to take it there.
And even, I think also, good point, these are all gravity drained in the end. None of these require pumping at this point. So.
Okay. Anything else before we move on? All right. Agenda item number 4, written receipts of communication from the public at this time. Is there anybody who'd like to provide any written documentation to the City Council? If so, please approach and hand to. Yes, we have some people. One gentleman here. Please provide your information to Clerk Spencer, and she will make sure it gets distributed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else with written communication? Okay, on to agenda item number 5, and that's public forum. Clerk Spencer, do we have anybody signed up?
Mr. Mayor, we do, and I will start with Kathleen Sullivan, 133 Pine Street.
Thank you. Ms. Sullivan, if you would approach, where are microphones? If you would approach the microphone, and I think you're familiar with, but we ask that public comments be held to 3 minutes, and we look forward to hearing from you. And also, please state your name and your address for the record. Thank you.
Kathleen Sullivan, Elmhurst resident since 1970, address on file. Congratulations, Mayor Morley, on your installation tonight. You have a great opportunity to distinguish yourself from your predecessor. This is your chance to shine. You have a $1 million engineering plan sitting on the shelf that's been fully vetted by a committed group of citizens who vetted the plan, who served on the mayor's task force on stormwater management, and would like to think that we were more than window dressing. I won't speak to my personal situation tonight or any kudos or things I have for people because I only have the 3 minutes. I'm going to speak to you as the board of directors of the corporation City of Elmhurst. One of the things you do when you go to marketing classes, get a business degree, is you also have to take classes like psychology. They talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the base level of that hierarchy of needs is providing food, water, shelter, and clothing. The City of Elmhurst provides our water. That's level 1 marketing. You also take our water away. You do a pretty good job when it's not raining, but when it's raining, you don't do a very good job in my neighborhood. You also impact my shelter, so you're not meeting my basic needs on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? Second, another thing you see as one of your key things to do is to work on the assessed valuation of the City of Elmhurst. You do a lot to try to attract new business, and you spend a lot of money on that. And I'd like to hear a dollars comparison of the marketing spending versus the flood control spending these past 3 years as well. So one of the things, though, when you go to marketing classes is you learn about retention. Retention of employees and retention of customers is much less expensive than getting the new things. And one of the ways that you're going to retain the value in my home and the value of your homes is by fixing the problems with the basic needs that we as residents have. When my value goes down, if people in my neighborhood sell, the values of assessed values of houses in my area will also go down. They might not be able to refinance their mortgages even if they want to stay. Another secret to you non-flood victims who might be present is that in a year in which you flood, you often get a tax break from the township for the following year. So everybody else is paying for me to flood. I'd prefer you pay for me not to flood. So please implement these projects that you're talking about as soon as possible, especially for those of us who you know have devastating consequences. Cut the marketing. We did not need a Groupon when my water was peaking on my street from Explore Elmhurst, which is paid for by the city, to buy a meal in downtown Elmhurst. That's someone who doesn't understand the mission of the organization she's working for. So I did personally speak to the Park District and beg them for help with regards to Golden Meadows. Now is your chance to shine to the best of your abilities, as you all just swore. Got it? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Robert Farr, 285 Geneva Avenue.
Yes, forgive me. I'm going to speak fast and I'm going to read because I only have 3 minutes. Hello, my name is Robert Farr. I live at 285 Geneva Avenue, which is actually on the 300 block of Geneva Avenue. I have a written explanation provided by Kevin York from Mike Hughes regarding the recent flooding event on Geneva Avenue and in East End Park. To the best of my knowledge, this email sent by Mike Hughes on Friday, May 3rd is the most recent and only response provided to the city by the city to the residents of the 300 block of Geneva Avenue. I am not going to read his explanation because I assume that our elected officials have access to correspondence issued by city employees. I would like, however, to read my response to Kevin York. Dear Kevin York, thank you for providing me with Mike Hughes' written explanation of the flooding that occurred on the 300 block of Geneva Avenue. As residents of the 300 block of Geneva Avenue, which in recent years has come to be known as Lake Geneva, we have begun to organize our response to this event. We have collected a great deal of information from homeowners and renters. There is basically perfect consistency in the information received from residents, but this information is, in several cases, completely inconsistent with Mr. Hughes' explanation regarding Lake Geneva, and/or our information raises questions that are not addressed in Mr. Hughes' explanation. For example, Mr. Hughes' explanation states, city staff checked on numerous homes along Geneva Avenue to ensure that their basements had not been taking on sanitary backups. City crews found that none had received any backup on Geneva Street. Actually, in fact, on the 300 block of Geneva Avenue, 275 Geneva Avenue, 285 Geneva Avenue, 289 Geneva Avenue, 293 Geneva Avenue, 297 Geneva Avenue, 290 Geneva Avenue, 294 Geneva Avenue, and 298 Geneva Avenue all experienced sanitary backup. Mr. Hughes did visit our home a few years ago. He is obviously a very intelligent and competent individual, so I am sure that these inconsistencies and questions not addressed simply require further investigation and reconciliation of facts. At this point, I am in no way, and I stress, I am in no way accusing Mr. Hughes, any city of Elmhurst management or staff, or any city of Elmhurst elected officials of any intentional deception. When there are inconsistencies, hopefully everybody can work together and cooperate to get to the bottom line and fix the issue if possible. This is the last thing I want to read. At exactly 5:30 p.m. on April 18th, 2013, I took a picture of a large City of Elmhurst Public Works truck headed north on Geneva Avenue to the pumping station in East End Park. At 5:41 p.m. on April 18th, that's 19 minutes later, the truck returned from the station. I asked the driver if the station was now operational. He said yes, but then after pausing, said that because it was a sanitary lift station, it would have no impact on the millions of gallons of water surrounding our homes and East End Park. The driver then rolled up his window and went about his business. Before I could wade less than 50 yards back to my home, I noticed large whirlpools forming above the storm sewer grates in front of my home and the home across the street from me. Within an hour and 45 minutes, all water surrounding our homes was gone, with only some water remaining out in the low-lying area of East End Park. At 5:40, like I said, at 5:49 p.m., 19 minutes after the truck had driven past my house to the pumping station, I took video of the water being sucked and pumped away to somewhere at a very rapid rate. If the pumping station in East End Park is strictly a sanitary pumping station, then there is a vast infiltration of stormwater into this sanitary sewer system, such that when the sanitary pumping station is operational, it effectively serves as a stormwater pumping station. With this in mind, I would think that it should be a high priority to keep it operational during these storms. By the way, except for the times of day that I just described to you, this is precisely what I just described to you, what happened in 2010. And I still have the pictures and videos from that event. Lastly, about a week ago, Dan Rosenwinkel, superintendent of wastewater, came to my home. He informed me not to be surprised if I hear loud noises or see lights on at the East End sanitary pumping station because a backup diesel pump was being installed. He said that it will only kick on if we have storms and rainfall. I thought that was strictly a sanitary pumping station.
Thank you, Mr. Farr.
Stephen Cook, 988
Bryan.
South Bryan.
South Bryan. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the southwest end of Elmhurst over by Bryan Middle School where a lot of flooding occurred. Now by a show of hands, how many people have sump pumps in their basement? Okay. How many people have floor drains in their basement? How many people receive flooding coming up through those floor drains? Quite a number of you guys. Now, a number of years ago, in the 2010 flood, we got a vast amount of flooding in our basement due to water coming out through that drain and destroyed most of the things, if not all of them, in our basement, including all the walls. Since then, we've installed a simple device called a backflow check valve, similar to the valve inside a shop vac. When the water gets too high, it closes up the valve and restricts water from coming into your basement. Now, we still managed to get a couple inches of water in our basement. I knew this because because my room is in the basement, and I woke up to a couple inches of water on my floor. Not cool. But because of that drain, which we removed the 4 simple screws and lifted it out to check, we saved ourselves thousands and thousands of dollars that we would have received in damage from those simple drains. Now, southwest end of Elmhurst is a lot of it under the floodplain, which is an inconvenience for a lot of people. Now, because the drains couldn't take on all the water and a lot of water was falling elsewhere instead of on the streets and drains, they were super saturating the soil, which was leaking in through cracks in the foundations in many of the old homes. Thus, people still took on flooding. Now, and as far as I know, I don't think there are many systems that drain water from the dirt. I think it'd be a huge waste of time and effort to do so because it'd be an enormous project. So it's pretty much just a freak of nature that it happened, and just the composition of our soil, which is a lot of clay underneath a couple feet of dirt, that we took on a lot of water. But this simple device, the backflow check stop, I forgot what it's called.
Check valve.
Backflow check valve saved us so much money, and it was very inexpensive and under $50. If people with those drains in the floors could get these, they could save themselves so much, and also we wouldn't need all these options of digging holes everywhere, including East End Park, which is also known as Joe Newton Championship Field, and congratulations on our 28th state title. But it would severely alter our track, and we wouldn't be able to run a lot anymore because of the restriction in the running. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Next, we have Robert Hansel, 473 Howard.
Hello, my name is Robert Hansel, 473 North Howard, and we've been through 2 floods now up there. And every time it rains, somebody's out at 2 in the morning making sure that the lids to the sewer, the inlets are cleared and this and that. And this time, the water was from one side of the front of the house to the house across the street's front door. And when the cars would go through, it was like a wake zone. The water would just go up, up, up into the buildings. You know, and we've never seen anybody coming out doing a survey, oh, you guys flooded? Maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. Have somebody come out and check things for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansel.
Next, we have Mike Killian, 481 North Howard.
I want to comment. I've been a resident since 76, went through the flood in 87. That was 6 foot. In 2010, it was 19 inches, thanks to the Hansels. They took care of our house when we were on vacation. This time, it was 5 feet, 4 inches. Alderman Bryan was in my home that morning, so he can verify it. We verified in 2010 about the flood on the north side. Not a thing has been done. Some things I think that could alleviate a few things. A robocall, I got enough robocalls during election time, maybe warning people about, hey, there's an imminent flood, start getting some things out of the basement. I called in 2010 if I get some sandbags because the flood comes up the driveway and down the back steps, and the way we're configured, if I had sandbags, I think the sandbags in the window and the drive and in the stairwell would divert a lot of water, possibly. They said, no, you can't do that. Public Works will give you a sandbag, but we won't deliver. Well, I'm not in position to pick up sandbags. Some other things would be this idea of drain water going into all these new homes, and there's quite a few of them over there. All the gutters got to go into the storm sewer. Well, for years, I'm an old country boy. You run water out in the field, that's what's intended to absorb that water. And yet that's never been changed. Everything's got to go to the storm sewer. So I think with a little common sense, a little help, a lot of help, let's pay attention to the north side too and start taking that into account. Alderman Brand mentioned Crestview Park. That's certainly a consideration. I understand our water goes down to the by McMaster Carr, maybe a bigger water retention. And I got a question: how does the water get from there to the quarry? In '87, they said there'll never be another flood. We're buying the quarry. That'll take care of all your problems. Well, it hasn't. And I'm getting to the point in life where I just can't go through it again. My wife and I just can't take it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Killian.
Gilbert R. Fisher, 586 North Van Auken.
Gilbert Fisher, 586 North Van Auken. Well, I got my property tax bill, went up again. 5 years ago, my house was assessed at $180,000. This year it's assessed at $76,000. And my tax bill is over $1,500 more than it was before. The village of Elmhurst has raised the taxes on one line on my house over 600% in 1 year. When I use gas in my house, I pay a tax to the city of Elmhurst. When I use electricity, I pay a tax to the city of Elmhurst. When I buy something in Elmhurst, I pay a tax to the city of Elmhurst. In August of 1987, I had 3 feet of water in the street in front of my house and water in my basement. April 2013, I had 3 feet of water in the street and water in my basement. 26 years of paying high taxes, and nothing has been done by the city of Elmhurst to protect my wife and me, and our only possession we have, our house. Period. We were up for 48 hours running 3 sub pumps to keep the water down in our basement. 2 by electricity and 1 by generator. 48 hours with very little sleep and a lot of work. I just love the government of the city of Elmhurst. I just love paying high taxes. Thank you very much for nothing.
Claude Pagash, 5-6, I can't read your writing. I have a brain cramp on your address. Claude Pagash. Where are you?
68.
568, is that it? West Gladys. Claude, I can't read your handwriting tonight.
I was shaky when I came in. I was going to cover another subject, but number one, glad to see you all here. See, because I come here very often, and whether you're here as guests of the elected or citizens that were flooded out, this will probably be the last time I see a gathering this large. You can find the time for hockey games, you can find the time for baseball games, but you can't just come out to find out what this organization here that's elected is doing. You can complain, and you've been complaining from those areas for the last 20 years. And what have you gained out of it? They've hired engineers after engineers and came up to you and told you they were going to solve your problem. They haven't solved a thing. But you won't come back. You're going to come here and you're going to say what you're going to say, but you won't come back. You will have no interest at all if they do anything, disregarding what Mr. Kennedy said or what Mr. Burke has said. Because you won't come back. You will go back to your abode, you'll straighten it out, you'll throw your garbage out, and you'll go to the local soccer game. And until you decide that you've had enough of people saying they're doing something. You just had a gentleman here that the city went by, said he's got no sewage. He has no reason to lie that the whole block had sewage. But you don't care. You care tonight. But you won't be back. There'll be 3 of us here. And we'll listen to the same argument from this council that they've had for the last 20 years. Maybe not the same faces, but the same attitude. Another engineering report that winds up on a shelf and you get flooded out again. That is reality. And until you take a stand, and not send 1 or 2 of the people that live down there, but you come down here and you listen to what they're doing. They got a mortgage on that Addison property that's going to be a parking garage. What are we in the mortgage business for? Why do we want another 2 floors on it for another $2.5 million? Why are we signing a contract with Paulie and letting them use the property for another year with no compensation to the city? Mr. Kennedy is worried about money.
Mr. Pragash, if you could wrap it up.
So, until you understand this, and until you come back here, and don't worry about the robocalls. They're not going to call you. They're not going to ask you because they figure right now you're here, you're going to leave, and they'll never see your faces again. I hope I do. But unless you take the time, this body will do nothing.
Next, we have Jen Vince, 659 Prospect.
What was 6'9"?
659 Prospect.
Just trying to figure out where. It's like McKinley.
Jennifer Vince, 659 Prospect. I've been an Elmhurst resident for 14 years, and I have come back. I was on the Stormwater Task Force for over a year to try to fix this problem after I had 3 feet of sewage in 2010, flooded out again just as we had finished the basement, and had 3 feet of sewage again in April. I've lived in my house 10 years. We've completely flooded out 4 times and lost everything. I want to say 3 quick things. 1, I've spoken and have copious notes with about 6 different plumbers since 2010 till now. And when this happened in April, the one thing that really dawned on me is we decided to invest money we did not have in new plumbing infrastructure in our house and to the street. As I sat down with several different plumbers and I said, tell me the truth. If I fix my infrastructure, aren't I just moving the problem to my neighbor who can't afford it? And every one of them looked at me and said, yes, you are. And I have a real ethical dilemma with the fact that the city is telling us to push the problem down. Secondly, I think we need to reevaluate what is a floodplain. I live on the corner of Prospect and McKinley, which is, I believe, about 3 houses away from the floodplain. I don't know the last time that those areas have been looked at and remapped and redrawn, but I think it's time to explore that again. Lastly, I really think we need to look at the holistic footprint of this town. We talk about new construction versus the small homes, but it's also the parking garages, it's the Marianos, it's the Walmarts. It's the fact that we have all this porous surfaces that we keep building on, and the water has nowhere to go. I think these plans are wonderful. I don't think we can afford them. And I think we need to look at this from many different angles and not just the small areas that we're looking at now.
The last person to sign in tonight, Mr. Mayor, is Tamara Brenner, 137 North Caroline.
Tamara Brenner, 137 North Caroline. Speaking of new construction where the water might not have any place to go, I would like to make sure that everybody who has any interest at all in the Addison Street Development Project, I want everybody to be aware that the next phase of that is occurring this week on Thursday evening. The Zoning Commission is scheduled to deliberate following the public hearings that were held in February and in April. Everybody's here tonight. This is great. It's really important to realize that these meetings here are televised. You can watch them later. The Zoning Commission is not. And what you get from the meeting is never the same. With all due respect to the press that we have here, being there yourself, you really get a different feeling for it than what you might read about in the paper. So I encourage anybody who's interested to please attend this meeting. It's at 7:30 this Thursday, May 9th, here in the City Hall chambers. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Brenner.
So that concludes public forum, like I said, as far as they've signed in.
Well, and I know that there was a lot of people going in and out tonight. Is there anybody else who would like to speak who has not had an opportunity to speak? We'll take you one at a time. I'll take this lady over here. If you could approach the microphone, and please state your name and address clearly for the record.
Hi, I'm Tracy Breen. I live at 156 Walnut, which I haven't really heard represented, and going through the 2010 storm information, I didn't see a plan for that area, although we got hit as well. So I want to tell you a bit of a personal story because I feel like it really adds to the situation. So, you know, that morning at 4:30, our alarm went off, and my husband and I got up, but we thought we just had to change the battery in the alarm. We heard lots of noise in the basement, opened the door, and at 4:30 in the morning, the water was up to the 3rd step already, and gushing. In a matter of an hour, the water filled our basement up to the ceiling, 8 feet of water. And that is not only our basement, as I found later, a few of my neighbors in the room, up to the ceiling, up to in the ductwork, 6 inches from our first floor. I was scared to death as it was happening because, you know, I have young kids. There was no way to evacuate. There were abandoned cars on our street. We couldn't, you know, putting the highest rubber boots we had on, we went out. You couldn't get very far. The water was frigid. I mean, we thought we started evacuating our first floor, moving belongings, because we thought that was going to be taken as well. And we thought my 9-month-old twins and my other 2 kids, and we were going to be on the 2nd floor, stuck for God knows how long. We were filling up buckets of fresh water, because God knows how long it would be till we had fresh water. So, I mean, it was the scariest time in my life, I think. Yeah. Okay, so that was 5:30 in the morning. It finally stopped at 1 stair short of our first floor, thank God. Then we thought, okay, now what do we do? The water was still so high, we couldn't go out to do anything about it. So over the next hour or 2, it receded a few inches. Neighbors started to go out with their rakes, trying to make sure the sewers didn't have debris on them so water could go down. No water was going down. It took until 10:30 in the morning for the, and I feel bad for people who had it even longer than that, but 10:30 in the morning for the water to start going down. And we could see there was no movement in the sewer whatsoever. It was flat until, you know, a Hummer drove through and, displaced it onto everyone. But there was no movement, and then at around 10 o'clock, you started to see suction in the sewer. So I don't know why there was no movement. I don't know if we have a lift gate or whatever it is that drains it all the way from our house to Salt Creek, you know, and back to the quarry 1.5 miles away. My big question is, I live 2 blocks. We live 2 blocks from the quarry that never filled more than a third. Why can't a couple 100 feet of pipe be put down to empty right into the quarry? You know, that sounds not too costly. That would alleviate, I think, a lot of problems. Perhaps there are other solutions, and believe me, I'm willing to be a part of any task force, and I'm not going to settle with this until it's actually there's a solution on our street. As my neighbors know, we got it pretty bad in 2010. In 2010, the water stopped about 3 inches below our foundation, so it luckily didn't overflow. This time, as my 7 neighbors in a row all learned, it came over the foundation, filled up our window wells, shattered all of our windows, and filled it up just like a geyser. So, and I have no faith whatsoever that in another year, 2, 3, it's not going to come up that high again. Or maybe that extra 6 inches, to just get my first floor. That would just be everything. So, I'm going to stay on this because I need to find a solution, or I need to move. I can't raise my family in a home that I don't feel safe with. So, in our street alone, if you were to go down the block a week later, not a couple days later, because we're all pumping out water for days, replacing every single mechanical we had, replacing everything. No hot water, no heating, no nothing for, a week and 2 days is how long we went without all that. So, we have to find a solution. Our area has no green space whatsoever for a retention area. Therefore, we need to think of alternate solutions. I do partially blame the city for allowing every smaller house to be torn down, and big houses, which I have one myself, so but big houses with the 10-foot basements with increasing the concrete and no area, no ground for the water to drain into. They continue to be built with no plan of how to fix the infrastructure around the area, so we need to start focusing on that. And especially the tear downs, with a property tax of maybe $5 grand a year being replaced with a property tax of $15 grand a year. you know, for the first 2-3 years, can't we use that incremental amount to go towards infrastructure updates? I mean, I'm in finance. There are a lot of ways to make this money work better for the town. And I'm willing to help out and figure that out. So, you know, on our street alone, we had 20 houses that lost pretty much everything, because although we got 8 feet of water, our neighbors all got 3 and 4 feet. That's enough to ruin everything. So our street alone, 20 plus houses, plus all the accompanying houses, there's got to be at least 100. And I'm mentioning this because I see from the 2010 plan, you know, I equate us to the Pine Street area. It seems very similar what happened. We're a basin. There was nowhere for the water to go. There, like Pine Street, we have an area, the quarry, just a few blocks away, that the water could be routed to, I think, fairly easily with not too much cost, or at least a tiny fraction of the cost of all the losses that all of our neighbors sustained over that, you know, couple day period. So I urge Elmhurst to look at this and look at our area specifically. And I will help with that. And I also, you know, think we need to have safe homes. And this is just as we try and attract more people to buy in our area, which it's a great area. People keep coming, but if they really start to get wind of the big problems we have, it's not going to be good for anyone's property values. It's not going to be good for the city. I mean, it's going to have a downward spiraling effect, and we all know that. So that's all. You know, God bless you all, and good luck with your basements, because I know we're still feeling the pain of it.
Thank you. Anybody else who'd like to be recognized? We'll go with the gentleman in the blue shirt who's already at the podium, and then the lady in red next.
My name is John Morse. I live at 460 Poplar Avenue in Elmhurst. I'm a York Township trustee, and I'm going to present this to the city manager that you can link those of us who are residents of York Township can link to the storm damage assessment relief request. It would be an opportunity, if they have structural damage to your property, you can ask for a temporary relief on your property taxes in terms of your valuation. So I'll hand this off to the city manager.
Great, thank you. The lady in the red top, thank you.
Hi, my name's Jackie Fisher, 949 South Fairfield. I was chair and co-chair of the Stormwater Task Force. My counterpart, Dave Cook, is here as well tonight. My husband was also on the sanitary subcommittee. So we our family takes it very seriously, the damages from flooding. I have some recommendations for the city. First of all, I looked at your website. I'm surprised by the number of people who have contacted me to see the report that our subcommittee had written, because I assumed you'd put our report on your website. You've put a presentation of the report, but not the report itself. So please update your website so people can see a comprehensive summary and recommendations that our subcommittee made. So that's first. Second, I'd like to see that the video of the presentations that were given by the sanitary subcommittee and the stormwater subcommittee be put online, just like Christopher Burke's presentations are put online, so that residents can see not just the presentation in writing, but hear what we said and the pleas we made to city officials, so that you could understand in better context and that people can actually hear what our recommendations were. I'd like to add that part of our recommendations were that meaningful public participation occur. When I heard tonight's presentation of what would happen at this park, this is not a great forum for meaningful public participation. It's a one-sided presentation where people in this community do not have the opportunity to ask questions and get answers. Okay, that's meaningful participation. So you'll need to have meetings where the people who are involved in this, who live in that area, can actually ask questions and get answers, and not have a mute committee look at them when they talk. So that's meaningful. And then I guess I would also say that for everyone's information, the stormwater subcommittee, the sanitary subcommittee, were only parts of the whole stormwater task force. There's a communications piece, there's a ComEd piece, there's a flood proofing piece, there's other pieces I can't remember, but every one of these subcommittees prepared a report, and none of that is online either. So you should make our work, which was dedicated and hours of our time, present so that people understand what the community feels about the reports that were done. The other thing is that when we presented our reports or our findings in, I think it was August 20th, 2012, our subcommittee was disbanded. There is no longer a stormwater task force in the city. There is not one. It's disbanded. It is done. We were thanked. We received an email thanking for our work, and that's it. So if you think that the city has an actual task force that continues, it does not. Okay? So if you would like that to continue, gentlemen, ladies, please, you have an able-bodied group that would love to continue to work with you. So please don't disregard us. Have us continue to be involved. And as part of that, that would include when you receive these drawings, it would be good that all the engineers, the geologists, everyone who's been on these subcommittees who reviewed Burke's reports, RJN's reports in such detail that we did our own modeling to see if it actually matched the modeling done by these companies, that we could look at this and provide input. It is a waste of our time and resources as a task force if you don't utilize us. We're here to support you. We're here to get the message out and work with the community too. Don't make all of our efforts in vain just because you want to make your own decisions and not consult with the public. We're not window dressing. We're real people. We were all affected, and citizens should know that we're only half utilized. And if you want the citizens to really feel like they're heard, utilize your task force. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a show of hands of how many people remaining who would like to make a comment? 1, 2, I have 3. Okay, sir, please.
Michael Crumry, 570 West Crockett, and I just want to preface my comments by stating that the actual homeowners that own these homes, it is not a problem that they created. It was created by the builders, but I'm going to give some specific examples. So I live on 570 West Crockett, and I've lived there for 15 years. A lot of new homes were built on Crockett, but previously, or before all the new homes were built, basically Crockett heading west towards Garden. Garden is the frontage road along Route 83. The slope of all the yards was sloping down to the west. As new homes were being built, the builder would dig a hole in the ground, dump all the dirt in the backyard. My neighbor 2 houses to the west had a double lot. You can stand in my backyard, and the 2 lots that he built, the furthest lot, the ground is higher than my fence line. That's how high he built up the yard. Again, that's no fault of the person that owns the home, it's the builder's fault. Take a drive past Emerson School. There's a house, 2 houses to the south of Emerson, where a retaining wall was built by the builder to distinguish between the raised driveway, the raised garage that he built next to the older home that still remains right next to Emerson. My neighbor immediately next to me, again, I love my neighbor, he's just the guy that bought the house. There's steps leading from his driveway down that meets up then with my yard. Previously, that yard was lower than mine when there was an older home there. So we want to talk about the issues of what's happening with this water. You know, the soccer field up here, this diagram, yeah, that's going to be a place for stuff to flow to. Well, part of the problem is we keep building these homes and letting the builders build them higher than the neighbor next door. And it's blatant, and we know it, and we're turning a blind eye to that. Another quick thing in regard to some of the photos I saw in the paper with cars driving through clearly flooded streets. I know the police department can't be everywhere. Here's a simple request, because many of these residents that were getting flooded, having cars drive through, and I'm sorry, let me add, I did provide those photos to the task force of the homes that I just mentioned. Should be a simple rule that if the water is up to the curb, it's considered a flooded street. If you drive your car through there, and I'm a resident standing there on my porch because my basement's flooded, and you're splashing more water up, I can take a photo of your car, have the license plate, send it in the police department, and you get a fine. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Laura Kukas, 212 East Crescent Avenue. I just wanted to second the one lady who mentioned about the parking lots. I haven't heard any discussion yet tonight about how the commercial businesses in DuPage County can help with alleviating some of the water that goes into Salt Creek. I know I personally have given a lot of money to Toys R Us. All the money with the birthday parties that I go to, I could afford. They can certainly afford when they repave, if they have to repave, maybe you give them 20 years or whatever, but whenever there's repavement doing that needs to be done, at least consider the permeable pavement that Alderman something did. Anyway, at least consider it. I don't know if it's a waste of time, but don't spend a lot of money doing another engineering, but at least consider anything that can get water out of the whole storm system in all of DuPage County, I think would be beneficial. And then the second thing is, I don't know a lot of details about this, but if this stuff can be phased in, maybe we can't do the $2 million project for some of these, but we could maybe just, if this is dug out, just dig it out, but don't do any of the piping. All I'm asking is for the engineers to consider if there's any way anything can be done in phases, so that the sooner we get started, the better. And then the third thing was maybe any of the green areas like the Prairie Path or the Meadow, if those can just be dropped a foot and just let the water sit there until the streets clear out and then pump it out. That's all. Thanks.
Excuse me, ma'am, we didn't get your name and address when you got up there. We couldn't hear you. Could you repeat it?
Laura Kukas, K-O-U-K-A-S, 212 East Crescent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think there was one more. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Greg Zirkus. I live at 311 West Elm Park Avenue. After July 23rd, 2010, I came to these meetings for 9 full months. And as you clearly stated, nothing gets done. Last year, the rest of Chicago got nailed with more or less the same storm we got in 2010, and now this year we got that storm again. After 2010, I signed up for the overhead sewer program, and it worked for me. The other guy who's talking about those backflow preventers, they don't work because your drain tiles in your house will flood your house. So it's a backwards principle. It is true. So, hold on. So it works, but it can,
okay, let's
hang on.
Let's give this gentleman a chance to speak.
So, here's my only thing I want to leave the town with, is we filled up more or less the quarry, and this is May. So, July. So I'm assuming we're going to get another bad storm in July, and I'm hoping that the quarry is empty by July, or as soon as possible, because maybe a bad storm comes Thursday. So everything has to be to drain that thing as quickly as possible. And then number two, I like the idea of we have to think big pipes going straight to the quarry for stormwater. Dig through the town, rip up streets. It doesn't matter, because the core service of the town, and I said this after the 2010 event, the core service is protection of home. I mean, the single biggest investment of any individual in our town, for the most part, is their home, right? We have to protect that, and it's to the value of this town, because when I have conversations with friends, one who just bought a house here, the conversation turns to, do you have overhead sewers in your house? Do you have a gas generator in your house? Do you have, this is not how the conversation ought to go. It should be talking about our schools and our park district, but when it hovers around this, it's systematic, right? The big picture is we have to do something, act on these things. I don't care, we have to start acting on these things. The defensive measures of overhead sewers and there's something else, lots being built bigger, those are symptoms of the problem. The problem is we have to address, and you guys are getting there, but you got to get there faster. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have one more.
My name is Laura Zakarski. I live at 449 East Park Avenue in the Brinhaven neighborhood. My husband and I had not lived in our home 1 year when we took in 6.5 feet of water. If you all remember the first year you lived in your house, that would probably have made you very sad, because Elmhurst is supposed to be a really spectacular place to live. And we are looking forward to working with our alderman, Mr. York. We'll be meeting with him later this week and the rest of the city council to make this the place that we thought it was going to be, our forever home. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public forum part of the meeting. We will move on to agenda item number 6, and that's announcements.
She's got one, I got some. Let her go first.
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, and just like to get this one in before everybody leaves. It's time for the 7th annual First Ward Town Hall meeting. Alderman Marty Deuter and I will be hosting this meeting on Thursday, May 16th at 7 p.m. at the Elmhurst Public Library. If you'd like to receive email updates from us on future meetings or information at all about this meeting, you can send us an email at ward1news@hotmail.com. Please note this is a new address. It's ward1news@hotmail.com. And our annual town hall meeting will be Thursday, May 16th at 7 p.m. at the Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gutenkopf. If you are exiting, I would ask that you try to keep it down so the rest of the people who are participating in the meeting can hear. Thank you. Is there anybody else who has an announcement? Clerk Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple. One, a public service announcement. The new spring clean pickup dates are June 12, 13, and 14, and that will occur on your regularly scheduled refuge pickup. And one other announcement, York High School Key Club is having a garage sale on Saturday, May 11th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it is just right next door to Kiwanis Club Pancake Breakfast Day, which starts at, I believe it's 6 a.m. So garage sale, pancake day, please try to attend. That's May 11th. Thank you.
Alderman York with an announcement.
Thank you, Your Honor. A reminder to elected officials about the Elmhurst elected officials bike ride this coming Saturday at 2 o'clock, a 10-mile trip around Elmhurst to highlight good and bad about biking in the area. We're hoping to be joined by some other elected officials from county and state offices. And the other thing too is Kickoff for Kids annual golf outing is Friday, May 24th in Lake Geneva, 31, I'm sorry. It's the Friday after 31st May, kickoffforkids.org.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
Friday, May 31st.
Friday, May 31st. Any other announcements? We'll move on to the consent agenda, item 7. At this time, I would ask, is there any items on the consent agenda that any alderman would like pulled for possible further discussion? Anybody? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Item H.
H. Item H. Anybody else? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, less item H. Motion by Alderman Hipskin, second by Alderman Levin.
Call the roll.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13 ayes, 0 nays. That motion passes, as does the consent agenda. And on to item H. Clerk Spencer, if you could read the recommendation.
Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the applicant's request for conditional use and associated variations. The City Attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for the City Council approval. Respectfully submitted, Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee, signed by Stephen Morley, Chair, Danny Polumsky, Vice Chair, and Norman Leader, Alderman, 2nd Ward.
Ask for a motion to put this on the floor. Alderman Polumsky, and second by Alderman Leader. Alderman Polumsky, you want to set it up?
Sure. This is a request that is 3 parts. 2 of those requests are for conditional use and 1 for variation. The conditional use requests are for a drive-through restaurant and for a pylon sign, and the variation is for the size of 4 of the planned 5 signs on the Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Very good. Any questions? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have 2 questions. And the first directly relates to some of what we've been talking about tonight. I'd like the committee to talk a little bit about the conversation that occurred around flooding issues, because if anybody's driven down Route 83 after a heavy storm, they know that this corner of that parking lot takes on a lot of water. And so I think, you know, as a city and as our comprehensive plan states, we are trying to improve these areas whenever possible. When the new development was built on the corner of St. Charles and 83 on the south side of St. Charles, we worked with the developer to address stormwater management issues there. And I'd like to know if there was conversation about that, what the committee's position was, and how you tried to address the fact that this area floods badly a lot.
Okay. Alderman Polumsky, you want to handle that?
Sure. At the time that we first viewed this, it was before the flooding events of April 18th. And at that time, the applicant had stated that there were, that this was not in a floodplain, there were no anticipated issues. This was noted on page 3, which is slide 12 of the zoning transcript. And we, as a committee, fully discussed these requests, but then decided to take some time, 2 weeks, to review again to make sure that we'd fully reviewed and addressed every concern. And in that time, we had that big rain, and the parking lot was completely flooded. And the representative for Chick-fil-A, an engineer, Mr. Ubilar, was able to view the parking lot and measure it. He saw it on Thursday, the day that we had the rain, and also on Friday, and was able to see the water recede. And he indicated that their projections, were correct in what they thought that area, how it would fill up, and that their plans are designed in a way that the restaurant would be approximately 12 inches above the area of the highest point of water, and that the displaced water would not interfere with the other existing businesses. I know that originally, when they came to the city, the idea was to have it a little bit closer to Route 83, but it made more sense to not redirect some of the infrastructure, so they moved it back to the center. If memory serves, I believe that part of the lot is about 4 to 5 feet below grade of Route 83. Our concern at that second meeting that we discussed this was, how is this water going to be handled? Will this affect the restaurant? Will this affect all the other tenants? And it sounds like the water has been accounted for. Plus, the impervious surface will be decreased in this area once this restaurant is in with the landscape design. So we felt satisfied that the flooding water would not be an impact negatively to any of the tenants.
I have a follow-up.
Anybody else? Yes. Follow-up, Alderman Gutenkopf.
I'm glad to hear that there will be less impervious surface with some of the landscaping. Can you quantify that?
I cannot, Mr. Hughes, or do we have somebody who can quantify the impervious surface?
We can get that answer for you, but I don't think we'll have that tonight. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a second comment related to this. And I'm glad to hear about the elected officials' bike ride because that directly affects, or directly speaks to my second comment. And one of the goals the city's had is to increase pedestrian and bike sort of friendliness. We're working to become a certified bicycle plan town. We've been doing all kinds of things that increase bicycle accessibility. The Salt Creek Greenway runs along Route 83 on the west side of the street. There's been talk about connecting the Salt Creek Greenway with this shopping center by putting a pedestrian crossing at the stoplight across Route 83. But I don't see in the plans for Chick-fil-A any logical pedestrian or bicycle access into the mall accounted for in the plan, or even into the restaurant. And then, you know, if the restaurant is really going to be above the flooding, does that make it an island? And does that mean that no one can get to it if there's water until the water goes down? So I guess I've kind of got a follow-up flooding, and then is there a plan for access to this that isn't, that doesn't involve driving?
We did not, what we addressed related to bike access is bike parking. There are spots for bike parking. This area as it exists has 90 parking spaces. It will, the building itself, well actually this area with the building and the whole footprint will, believe it will take away 91 parking spaces. They will reconfigure 50 of those spaces, essentially losing 41. However, in that space, there still is room to add parking. In fact, that was brought up in the Zoning Commission hearing. So there's room to address the bike parking. We did not talk about the accessibility of the bikes. We talked about pedestrian crossing, and the traffic study took a look at traffic with people driving in cars and also walking, and where the volumes were there based on the way the parking lot is now, and then based on the projected volumes with 2 of their other stores in Chicagoland. We did not address bike access during a flooding event.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If we could have any further comments address the actual conditional use request and/or variance instead of other topics of Chick-fil-A that aren't related to the actual recommendation before us.
Okay. Alderman Polumsky, were you finished?
Sure.
Alderman Gutenkopf, did you have any additional questions?
Vehicle circulation and bicycle access and pedestrian access all seem to be part of the conditional use. So that was.
I don't disagree. I just want to know if you had any additional comments.
I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd ask Clerk Spencer to please call the roll.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye. Bless you.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Reuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13 ayes, 0 nays. Item H passes. And we turn to number 8 on our agenda, ordinances. Clerk Spencer, 8A, if you could read the ordinance.
An ordinance approving the 29th Amendment to real estate purchase contract for the purchase of the real property commonly known as 260 North York Street, Elmhurst, Illinois. Pauli due diligence extension.
Thank you, Clerk Spencer. I'd ask for a motion and a second to put this on the floor. Alderman Levin with the motion, Alderman York with the second. Any comments? Sorry, Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make one comment. I've been voting against these extensions for quite some time now, it appears to me that we're very close to a contract. I'd like to see the contract before the City Council so that we can vet it and discuss that in public. I'll be supporting this extension because I think we really are actually close to a contract at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Clerk Spencer, please call the roll.
Levin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Polumsky.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Oh, very good. 13 ayes, 0 nays. That ordinance passes. On to agenda item number 9, reports and recommendations of appointed and elected officials. 9A, that's me. Who would have thought we would have gotten here? I'll try to keep this brief, as I think we've had quite a discussion this evening. I will say this as a follow-up to our flood conversation. I do want to thank city staff for their hard work, and I do want to thank the citizens of Elmhurst for their patience. I also want to thank all of the aldermen. We've been through a number of these events, and I don't think I've seen this level of participation that I saw during this flooding event exceeded anything that I've seen. And I've gotten numerous feedback from the citizens that they do appreciate that. So thank you to all of the aldermen for your hard work during these challenging times. I think we've talked enough about some of the planning. I will say this. I think part and parcel to that planning is communication. Communication is key. Especially during these times where we are going to be making some difficult decisions. If you hear something that's too good to be true, it probably is. If you hear something that sounds terrible, it's probably not true either. I think it's very important during these times that we keep the lines of communication open and we try to get our facts straight and communicate as clearly as possible. That having been said, an invaluable tool not only for the citizens of Elmhurst, but for the city of Elmhurst is our Notify Me program. I think most of you are aware of it, but it can't be said enough. On the front page of our website, on the left-hand side, we have a Notify Me program. And I would encourage everybody who is interested in the operations of the city of Elmhurst to sign up for either email updates or text updates that the city does provide. Also, I would say if you do have any questions, please continue to call the city of Elmhurst and also your elected officials to get as much information as possible. We were shown some conceptual drawings tonight, and we did elect to show one in detail to see how that worked. It can't be said enough, and it was reiterated by City Manager Grabowski, that the drawings that you see and the potential projects that you see are on land that is not owned by the city. I will say this, it is owned by the citizens of Elmhurst, but you see projects on park land and you also see projects on school land. And it can't be said enough about intergovernmental cooperation. I know that the Burke engineers had an opportunity to meet with the staffs of the Park Board and the School Board. I know that City Manager Grabowski met with Superintendent Pernod and also Jim Rogers of the Park District, and I personally have had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Jim Collins, the President of the School Board, and Colette Cabisa, the President of the Park Board. And everybody is committed to do what they need to do to get this problem solved. But we're just at the beginning, and please don't take these drawings as a commitment from those other elected bodies. It's going to take a lot of cooperation. The other thing I'll say is that, and I'll put these elected officials on notice, early on during the flood and shortly thereafter, myself and Jim Grabowski were contacted by several elected officials, including Senator Durbin, Congressman Quigley, Congressman Duckworth, Governor Quinn, Senator Dillard, Senator Cullerton, Representative Rebeletti, Representative Belloc, and I'm sure I'm missing a few, but I will say this, all of them pledged their support. And I think it's important that they understand that we will be taking them up on that offer for support. They will be contacted by me more than once, and I encourage the residents and my fellow elected officials to contact these officials who have pledged their support, because we're going to need all the help we can get. That's about all I want to say about the flooding, except to say that there aren't right answers when you're standing in your basement and the water's coming in. It's a helpless feeling, and I am extremely proud of the citizens of Elmhurst and how they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and showed their neighbors what it means to be a citizen of Elmhurst when this happens. The compassion that I saw was unparalleled. We can do better, and we will strive to do better. And I just appreciate everything that the citizens of Elmhurst did for their fellow citizens. That having been said, there's a couple more housekeeping things that I have to take care of. One is that by officially being sworn in by state statute, I have been removed as alderman of the 6th Ward, and we need to find a replacement. I have 60 days to find a replacement with advice and consent of council. I certainly hope that it will not take that long. I think we have a press release that we'll be issuing, but I'll say it now. I'm hoping to get anybody who's interested to file an application. I want to find the best person, but I'm asking you to move. I'm asking folks to apply as soon as possible, and I'd really like to get anybody who's interested to contact City Hall by next Wednesday. You can go on the city website under the government button, and there is, under commissions and boards, there's a standard application that you can fill out, and then certainly you can add anything to that application that you think would be relevant in consideration. So I'm hoping to narrow that down and then seek the input of my fellow elected officials. And then finally, to my fellow elected officials, you should have, on the dais, you should have received a blue piece of paper this evening, and I'm requesting that you provide me with your committee choices and a ranking, and same with the previous application. If there's any additional information you'd like me to consider, I will do my best I will do my best to seat everybody in their preferences and do what I think is best for the city and the city council. So if you could get those into city staff no later than Friday, I'm hoping to get those committees seated as soon as possible. Last and not least, I would like to welcome the new city council, and it's one new face, two new faces. And I do look forward to working with all of you, and I do also appreciate that you have all actually committed to give up some of your personal time for the betterment of Elmhurst. Thank you. That's my announcement. City Manager.
I have nothing other than what we presented earlier. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just actually wanted to make an announcement on one of the comments, only one of the comments that was made tonight in regards to flooding and some of the potential causes, because I see the gentleman here tonight still. In regards to if a new construction home is going up next to you, there is an ordinance in place today that if that foundation is going above the previous foundation, it should not be, and that's against code. So please, I ask you, as one of the elected officials, to please report that if there's any suspicion of that to the city, to your elected officials, so something can be done before the house is totally built. I have received complaints in my own ward about that very issue, and there was some steps taken to mitigate that. So I have witnessed resolution to it to some degree. The only other thing, Mr. Mayor, I would like to add is the notify me. It is great. I, as an elected official, actually have signed up, and it's not an or email or text message. You can do both. So please tell your friends, tell your neighbors about Notify Me, because the City of Elmhurst has done an excellent job in regards to improvement in communication to the residents. We still have steps to go. We still have miles to go. But from where we were a few years ago, we've made vast improvements, and I applaud the city staff as well as this elected body for that. But please utilize all the tools in the tool chest here in Elmhurst to keep up to date with what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Before I wrap this up, I forgot something under my report and recommendation. On our consent agenda tonight, item D, as you are aware, we actually did reappoint Aaron Vanderwall as Deputy City Clerk, and we added the appointment of Ellen Cyprian as Deputy City Clerk. Did I pronounce it right? Mm-hmm. And as a follow-up to that, Clerk Spencer has informed me that the International Institute of Municipal Clerks is celebrating its 44th annual Municipal Clerks Week this week, May 5th through May 11th. Few people realize the clerk is one of the oldest positions of local government. City clerks and their deputies provide vital services for their communities, and I would like to thank Clerk Spencer and the deputy clerks Vandewall and Cyprian for their customer service to our community. Thank you very much. We'll move on to other business. I'll finish with this. Does anybody have any other business? I have some other business. If you'll indulge me, I would ask that ex-mayor, now Alderman Levin, please join me at the podium. Thank you. Alderman Levin, certainly we had an opportunity a little bit during our last meeting, and then there's certainly a lot of city business to take care of over the past couple of weeks. But we did not want your contributions to the city certainly to be overlooked or go unrecognized. So we have a Distinguished Service Award that I would like to present to Alderman Levin. I actually did have an opportunity at the last meeting to say what I think this man has done for the city, and almost effortless, about 5 months ago, he stepped into the job, and he stepped into the job with a lot of responsibilities. And it would have been very easy for someone in that position to coast, but in a very short amount of time, Alderman Levin has created some very, very large shoes to fill. If I can only approach what he did in the short amount of time he did, I will consider it a success. Scott, you have our undying gratitude, and I'd like to present you with this Distinguished Service Award, and thank you very much. I know it has been a long meeting. I would like to give Alderman Levin an opportunity to say a few words, and certainly before we wrap up, any elected official on the dais who would like to add to it, I would encourage them to do so. Alderman Levin.
Well, I really didn't know this was going to be happening tonight, but as I said back in December, I considered this a great honor to be selected by my fellow aldermen to serve in a very exciting 5 months. We had an opportunity to do a lot of things. I really planned on saying that there was no flooding on my watch, but we didn't quite make it. We have all heard what the citizens have said, and Alderman Morley and I were at the Flood Command Center, at the Emergency Command Center early. This is just one of the experiences. That one was somewhat of a tragic one, but again, to my fellow aldermen, thank you for your confidence. I genuinely appreciate it.
Okay, before we wrap it up for the evening, is there any alderman or elected official who would like to add any comments? Alderman Leader.
I don't have a speech prepared, but if I had known, I would have. So I'm only going to give a toast here. I would say that if this was champagne, I wish it was, I'd say to the once and future mayor. Thank you. Oh.
Alderman Hipskin.
Well, Scott, you proved the city council correct in our choice. You did, in 5 months, you did a great job. I cannot tell you how many times I was so impressed with your preparation and your explanation, not only to us but to the public, on very detailed manners that only an attorney could do, and do it so eloquently. thank you for your time, and we were right. We chose the right guy.
Thank you, Steve.
Alderman Polomsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I prepared something a couple of weeks ago because I thought we may have the opportunity, so I'm glad we do tonight. Alderman Levin, I wrote Mayor Levin in this. We've all heard General Patton's quote, if everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. While that may be true in some instances, it was not the case in December when the council unanimously voted to have Scott Levin serve as our acting mayor. With that decision, we all got it right. Thank you for your service to our community and to our council. Your willingness to listen and thoughtful direction allowed us to conduct ourselves in harmony despite the heated issues and even during the never dull election season. You not only kept the city running, but you handled your duties in a way that only you can, with humor and with your own personal touch. And an example I can think of is swearing in the new officers, how you didn't read from a card as is customary, but you memorized the oath. And I think that's the type of involvement that people really appreciate and remember. So thank you for your service.
Alderman Wagner.
Alderman Levin, ex-mayor Levin, Scott, I don't know if I can add and do much better than what Steve and Danny and Norm have already done. Some of the best words you could possibly ever hear in your life are the words thank you. And I really appreciate your effort and your service. That was fantastic. We needed it. So thanks, Scott.
Alderman Mulliner.
Just thank you. You did a great job.
Anyone else? Alderman Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, you did more than keep the seat warm. You did a great job for those 5 months. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Levin.
Thank you. I do have a few words.
You should have left your glasses up here. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will refer to Alderman Levin from here on out as the prodigal son. He started out as 5th Ward Alderman, went and played mayor for a little bit, and now he's come back to the 5th Ward. We are lucky to have you, and welcome back. And thank you for your service.
Anyone else? Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had to wait some time until others spoke after Norm Leader. I'm glad it wasn't a prepared speech because he's always a hard act to follow. Scott, Alderman Levin, I just want to say what I've said to you out in the parking lot after your last meeting serving as mayor. I appreciated the time that you spent as our mayor. You've always handled it with professionalism, courtesy, and respect. And that's something that I take to heart and take very seriously. So thank you in that. And you've done a heck of a job. And as Mr. Mayor has already stated, large shoes to follow in a very short period of time. So thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought, Scott, you were a compelling choice to fill the shoes, and you did not disappoint. You did a great job of facilitating a very productive council in the interim. I think we got a lot done, and we owe a lot of credit to you. So thanks for your leadership and your continued leadership back in your alderman role. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Gutenkopf.
Abe gesund, an Nomen öfter.
Thank you. We will ask for a translation for the transcripts later. Anyone else? Before I call for a motion to adjourn, best part about this, Alderman Levin, is that you're staying with us and will continue to work with us. So I think that's just wonderful. Motion to adjourn. I'm asking for Alderman York and Alderman Deuter would love to second the motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.